boy named Jack appears at the beginning of the story. His father was a farmer. Jack loved listening to stories, especially about kings and barons. One story inspired him the most, the story of a king. In that time, some pastors created magical beans. These beans were not normal. They wanted to use them to reach heaven. When the beans were planted, a huge tree grew. The tree grew so tall it touched the sky. The pastors thought it was the path to heaven. When they climbed up, they found another world between earth and heaven. That world was dangerous because giants lived there. The giants were much taller than humans. When they saw the humans, they realized the way to earth and came down. The giants destroyed everything and even ate humans. To stop them, the king's knights killed one giant. Then the pastors used magic on its heart and made a crown from it. Something amazing happened. When the king wore the crown, all the giants bowed before him and accepted him as their king. The king ordered them to return to their land, and then the giant tree was cut down. The king kept the seeds safe, and when he died, the crown and seeds were buried with him. This story was also loved by the princess. Her mother used to tell it to her, just like Jack had heard it in his childhood. 10 years later, Jack grew up. One day, he went to the city to sell his horse. There, he saw a play being performed about the same king whose story he had always loved. Jack also went inside to watch the play. A girl was there too, but no one recognized her because she was actually the princess in disguise. Some boys started teasing her. Jack stepped forward to defend her, but one boy punched him in the face. Jack stood strong and threatened them, so they bent down. Jack thought they were scared of him, but later he realized they had bowed only because of the princess. Then the princess left with them. Then Roderick appeared, the man whom the king wanted the princess to marry. But the princess did not like him and didn't want to marry him. Roderick entered his study room and saw it was a mess. He quickly understood something was wrong. He found a crown hidden in a plant pot, the crown made from a giant's heart. But he also noticed that something was missing from a book. So he ordered his men to block the city and search for the pastor everywhere. Meanwhile, Jack was in the city to sell his horse. A pastor came to him and said, "I want to buy your horse." Jack asked for money, but the pastor had no coins. Instead, he gave Jack some beans and said, "Give these to your father, and then you will be paid." Jack refused, saying, "Who pays with beans instead of money?" The pastor replied, "These are not normal beans. They are magical and powerful. They can change the world. They are very rare, so never lose them." Then he left with Jack's horse. On his way, he was caught. Jack went home, but his uncle became angry. "What is this? You gave away a horse and brought beans instead. That pastor tricked you," he shouted. In anger, the uncle threw the beans on the ground. Jack tried to collect them, but one bean slipped through the wooden cracks and was lost. Outside, it was raining. At the same time, the princess was passing nearby, unhappy because she did not want to marry Roderick. The princess had secretly run away from her house. To avoid the rain, she took shelter inside Jack's wooden house. Jack already knew she was the princess, so they began talking. But suddenly, rainwater slipped through the hole in the floor and touched one bean lying there. The pastor had warned that water must never touch it. As soon as the bean got wet, it began to grow. Its roots lifted the house upward, and the princess became trapped inside. The beanstalk grew so high that the princess was carried up with it despite Jack's efforts to save her. The next morning, the king arrived and saw the massive beanstalk reaching the sky.
Jack told him everything that had happened. The king ordered his men to rescue the princess. Roderick stepped forward and said he would also go because he loved her and wanted to marry her. Jack also asked to join. So they all climbed the beanstalk together. While climbing, Roderick secretly cut the rope, causing some knights to fall to their deaths. The survivors reached the strange land between earth and heaven. There, Roderick confronted Jack, saying he knew Jack had the magical beans. Threatening him with a knife, he seized them, but Jack managed to keep one bean hidden. The group then split into teams of 3 to search for the princess. Danger was everywhere. Suddenly, a giant appeared before Jack's group. The giant captured Jack's 2 companions and walked away. Jack followed, knowing the princess might be where the giant was going. Meanwhile, Roderick and his men were also searching. Roderick pushed one of them off a cliff, proving he didn't care for anyone. Then a giant appeared, killing another of Roderick's men right before his eyes. Just as the giant was about to kill Roderick, he pulled out a magical crown, the same crown made from a giant's heart 1,000 years ago. The crown had been created by the king long ago with a spell inside it. Whoever wore it, the giants would obey him. Roderick put on the crown and walked into the place where many giants were gathered. The princess and one of Jack's captured companions were also there. As soon as they saw the crown, all the giants knelt before Roderick. Even their leader bowed when ordered. Roderick proudly placed his foot on the leader's head and declared himself king. Roderick shouted, "I am your king now. We will go to Earth and enslave everyone." Meanwhile, a giant dragged the princess and Jack's captured fighter into the kitchen, planning to eat the fighter. Jack arrived just in time. He grabbed a large knife and stabbed the giant before it could attack. The giant died instantly, and Jack rescued the fighter. Together, the 3 of them left. They soon reached a spot where they could escape down the beanstalk, but a huge giant was sleeping nearby, blocking their way. Jack and the fighter came up with a plan. They took a hive of wasps and released it inside the sleeping giant's face armor. The giant woke in pain, thrashing about. It stumbled and fell, crashing down to earth. The king saw the giants fall and realized the danger. He warned that if the giants all came down, they would destroy everything. He immediately ordered the beanstalk to be cut down. The fighter told Jack and the princess, "Go back to Earth. I will stay here to stop Roderick." The fighter explained, "Roderick will bring disaster if he reaches Earth. I know his tricks, so I must face him." Jack and the princess started climbing down the beanstalk, while the king, though unwilling, gave the command to cut it down, knowing it was too dangerous for the world. Meanwhile, Roderick prepared to lead the giants down to Earth. But before they could descend, the fighter, who was hiding nearby, suddenly attacked Roderick. The fighter killed Roderick, and the crown fell from his head. On Earth, the king's knights cut down the beanstalk, and it began to fall. The fighter fell with it, and so did Jack and the princess. Luckily, all 3 survived. Meanwhile, the leader of the giants picked up the fallen crown and wore it on his finger. The giants accepted him as their king, but they could not reach Earth because the beanstalk had been destroyed. Soon, they found a small pouch containing magical beans. The giant leader threw the beans into water. From them, more giant beanstalks began to grow, this time stretching down toward Earth. Meanwhile, the king joyfully reunited with his daughter and thanked Jack, not knowing that Jack and the princess had begun to like each other. Jack, being a simple man, quietly said goodbye to the princess and returned home. But on the way, he saw the new beanstalks forming, realizing that Roderick's stolen beans were the cause. Jack understood that the giants were once again trying to come down to Earth. Quickly, he mounted a horse and rode to warn the king. He reached the king and the princess and cried, "The giants are coming!" By then, the giants had already surrounded the area, spreading destruction. Jack and the king rushed toward the palace, hoping to survive. Only there could they be safe, for the giants especially hated the king's family, the ones who had once forced them back. The giants would never forgive that family, because long ago, the king had sent them away using the magical crown. Jack and the king managed to reach the palace before the giants attacked. But Jack was left behind for a moment. The order was given to pull up the drawbridge. Jack jumped just in time before the giants could catch him. One giant grabbed the bridge, but the fighter commanded the archers to fire. Arrows rained down, and the giant leader fell into the fiery water below, unable to rise again. The giants begin to break into the palace. They pull the doors with ropes, while the king's knights desperately pull back to keep them closed. Suddenly, the giants hurl burning trees toward the castle walls. One giant's throw smashes a wall into rubble. Seeing the destruction, the king loses hope. He quickly tells the princess to escape through a secret passage that leads to a fire beacon. He orders her to light it to warn everyone of their danger. Jack and the princess rush through the palace toward the beacon, but before they can reach it, the ground shakes violently. The giant leader, who had fallen into the water, bursts out from underground, roaring with fury. He seizes both Jack and the princess, ready to devour them. In that moment, Jack pulls out his last magical bean, the one he had kept hidden. He quickly throws it into the giant's mouth. The bean sprouts inside its stomach, and massive trees begin to grow from within. The giant falls near Jack. Meanwhile, the other giants storm into the palace. The king and his knights stand helpless, preparing for their final battle. Suddenly, all the giants kneel in silence. Confused, they turn to see Jack standing tall, the crown in his hands. He places it upon his head and commands with authority, "Go back to your world." The giants retreat. The beanstalks are cut down, sealing their passage forever. Peace returns. Jack and the princess marry, and later, they tell their children the incredible tale of the giants. When asked about the crown, Jack reveals that it is still kept safe and displayed for people to see, but its true secret remains hidden.